Hello, and welcome to Vox Herald, your go-to podcast for the stories shaping Canada today. I'm your host, San Juan, and I'm thrilled to be with you as we unpack the issues that matter to Canadians from coast to coast to coast. Today, we're diving into a pressing story from the Prairies. A severe drought in southwest Saskatchewan has pushed 4 rural municipalities, Maple Creek, Fox Valley, Enterprise, and Waverly, to declare states of emergency. This crisis is hitting farmers and ranchers hard, threatening livelihoods and raising big questions about food security, climate resilience, and government support. We'll explore what this means for Saskatchewan, for Canada, and for the future of our agricultural heartland. Stay tuned for a deep dive, including voices from the ground and data-driven insights. Let's get started. In southwest Saskatchewan, the land is parched and the situation is dire. The rural municipalities of Maple Creek, Fox Valley, Enterprise, and Waverly have all declared states of emergency due to a relentless drought that's been described as the worst in decades. According to a recent CBC report, farmers like Corinne and Clayton Gibson, who run 6 Mile Ranch near Livestock, Saskatchewan, are facing unprecedented challenges. Corinne told CBC, "This spring has been the worst drought we've lived through in our 33 years. Their 4,500-hectare ranch saw crops that barely grew, some only reaching 6 to 8 inches tall, a foot shorter than usual. Hayfields, critical for feeding cattle through the winter, have produced next to nothing. This isn't just a local issue. Saskatchewan is Canada's agricultural powerhouse, producing 45% of Canada's grain and significant portions of beef and pulse crops, according to Statistics Canada. When drought hits here, it ripples across the country, affecting food prices, supply chains, and rural communities. Let's break down what's happening. The lack of moisture has created a perfect storm. Crops are failing, pastures are barren, and the risk of wildfires is skyrocketing. Ranchers like the Gibsons have had to make tough choices, like transporting over 500 cattle 300 kilometers to Weyburn for grazing, a move that risks animal health and costs a fortune. Corinne estimates replacing their usual feed could cost their operation hundreds of thousands, if not close to $1 million. This financial strain is echoed across the region, with farmers reporting wasted seeds, fertilizers, and chemicals due to crops that never had a chance. But it's not just about money. The mental and emotional toll is heavy. Farmers are resilient, but as Corinne put it, we don't know how many more years of this our neighbors and friends can live through. The Do More Agriculture Foundation and Saskatchewan's 24/7 Farm Stressline are seeing increased demand as producers grapple with stress and uncertainty. From a regional perspective, southwest Saskatchewan is particularly hard hit. Maple Creek's Reeve, Eldon Jamieson reported less than 2 inches of rain this year, while Enterprise's Reeve, Virginia Mayer, said her area saw just half an inch from spring to June. These numbers are staggering when you consider that. According to Environment Canada, southwest Saskatchewan typically needs 10 to 12 inches of annual precipitation to sustain crops and pastures. Nationally, this crisis raises questions about Canada's food security and agricultural policy. Saskatchewan's latest crop report, released July 3, 2025, shows that half of cereal crops are in fair to poor condition, while pulse and oilseed crops are faring slightly better, but still need rain urgently. Grasshopper and flea beetle activity is adding insult to injury in dry areas. Without significant rainfall in July and August, yields could plummet further, pushing up food prices for Canadians already grappling with affordability challenges. Now, let's talk about the response. The Saskatchewan Crop Insurance Corporation, or CG, is stepping up with a doubled low-yield appraisal process, allowing farmers to divert struggling crops for livestock feed, like silage or bales, without losing insurance coverage. This is a practical move, especially since hay production is non-existent in many areas. Rainfall insurance payments are also expected to start mid-July. Saskatchewan's Agriculture Minister Dale Harrison has called these programs a first line of defense, but emphasized the government's openness to further changes based on producers' needs. But is this enough? Some producers and municipal leaders don't think so. The RMIs are calling for long-term solutions, like re-evaluating crop insurance programs to better reflect nearly a decade of drought cycles and providing freight support for feed transport. The Saskatchewan NDP has also weighed in, with Deputy Agriculture critic Trent Wotherspoon urging both provincial and federal governments to step up, including proposals like a 10-year deferral of capital gains taxes for producers forced to sell cattle due to drought. From an Indigenous perspective, the drought also impacts First Nations communities in the region, many of whom rely on agriculture or traditional land use. The Federation of Sovereign Indigenous Nations has highlighted how climate-driven challenges like drought exacerbate existing inequities, such as access to water and land for farming. Including these voices in policy discussions is critical to ensuring equitable support. Economically, the stakes are high. Agriculture contributes $13 billion annually to Saskatchewan's GDP, per Statistics Canada, and disruptions here could ripple into national markets. For example, reduced beef production could drive up prices at grocery stores across Canada, hitting urban consumers in places like Toronto or Vancouver. Socially, the drought threatens the fabric of rural communities, where farming isn't just a job, it's a way of life. To put this in context, let's look at some data. Environment Canada's drought monitor for June 2025 shows southwest Saskatchewan in moderate to severe drought, D1, D2, with some areas verging on extreme drought, D3. This aligns with reports from Alberta, where similar conditions are affecting the Milk and Oldman River basins, suggesting a regional crisis. Historically, Saskatchewan faced severe droughts in 2001 and 2021, but producers say this year feels different, more relentless, with less recovery time between dry spells. Let's dig deeper into what this drought means for Canada and how we might address it. First, the economic impact. According to the Canadian Agricultural Outlook for 2025, drought-related crop losses could reduce Saskatchewan's agricultural output by 10 to 15% this year, translating to hundreds of millions in losses. For consumers, this could mean a 5 to 7% increase in beef and grain-based product prices by fall, based on projections from the Agri-Food Analytics Lab at Dalhousie University. That's a real hit to Canadian households already stretched by inflation. Politically, the drought is putting pressure on both provincial and federal governments. The Saskatchewan Association of Rural Municipalities and the Saskatchewan Stock Growers Association have praised the SCIC's quick response, but argue it's a band-aid on a deeper wound. Climate-driven drought cycles, intensified by warmer winters and erratic rainfall, demand long-term strategies. For example, investments in irrigation infrastructure, like those in Alberta's Bow River Basin, could help. But Saskatchewan's irrigation systems cover only 3% of farmland, compared to 20% in Alberta. Scaling this up would require billions in public and private investment, something producers are pushing for. Socially, the drought is testing the resilience of rural communities. In southwest Saskatchewan, where towns like Maple Creek rely on agriculture for 80% of their economy, prolonged drought could accelerate outmigration, a trend already seen in rural Canada. Statistics Canada reports that rural Saskatchewan lost 2% of its population between 2016 and 2021, and crises like this could worsen that. For Indigenous communities, the drought compounds challenges like underfunded water infrastructure, as seen in places like Neckaneet First Nation near Maple Creek. What about solutions? Beyond insurance tweaks, experts suggest regenerative agriculture. Practices like cover cropping or rotational grazing could build soil resilience to drought. The federal government's $1 billion Agri-Recovery Program, used in 2021 and 2023, could be expanded to cover feed transport costs or mental health support. But producers like Randy Stockey from Consul say systemic changes, like updating rainfall, insurance to better account for regional variability, are overdue. Cross-referencing with Alberta's experience, we see a mixed picture. Alberta's government has invested in reservoir monitoring and soil moisture reports, which Saskatchewan could emulate. However, Alberta's own drought challenges show that even robust systems struggle against prolonged dry spells. A national drought strategy, integrating federal and provincial efforts, could help coordinate these responses. That's today's deep dive into Saskatchewan's drought crisis. From the struggling ranches of Maple Creek to the grocery aisles. In Vancouver, this story touches every Canadian. It's a reminder of how connected we are to our farmers and how climate challenges demand bold, collective action. What do you think? How should Canada support its agricultural heartland? Share your thoughts on X at Vox Herald, and let's keep this conversation going. As we wrap up, I'm reminded of the resilience of Saskatchewan's farmers, like Corinne and Clayton Gibson, who are finding ways to adapt despite the odds. Their story reflects the strength of Canadian communities, rural, urban, Indigenous, and newcomer alike. Until next time, this is San Juan with Vox Herald, keeping you informed and connected. Stay hopeful, Canada.